interesting thing. Okay, we are in Orchot Tzaddikim, and please subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, and make sure you comment on it and like it. That way it goes to the top of your list, and you will never miss a class that is being given at the Midwest Torah Center. Channel Rabbi Neville. Okay. Page 178, Orchot Tzaddikim. It says, it's a gate of arrogance. So it says, the arrogant one is called wicked, as is written, the wicked man has made his face brazen. And the wicked are ugly and despicable in the eyes of Hashem, and their very name is despised, as is written, the name of the wicked will rot. So he says in 5, the wicked man had made his face brazen. The Gemara goes on to say that it is permissible to call a brazen-faced person a rasha, a wicked person, and according to the second opinion, to hate him. This, as Rashi, is despite the verse that says, you shall love your neighbor like yourself. It's advisable, of course, to consult with a Torah authority before jumping to conclusions, since referring to another person as a rasha or hating someone cannot be taken lightly. Okay, so here we go.
I gotta change seats.
There you go. About shame, it is written, and he will teach the humble his way. See, the whole class has to go the other way now. Okay. And about the wicked arrogant one, he will twist the way of the wicked. Okay. So, and he says again that a shamefaced person who humbles himself and repents from his sins will learn the ways of Hashem. An arrogant and brazen person who acts with wickedness toward the downtrodden and unfortunate will have his ways twisted. That's how the Malbim understands that verse. It is an evil, sickly trait for one to be wicked and to say, I have not sinned. The Holy One, blessed be He, judges him without pity for this, as is written, behold, I will enter into judgment with you for saying, I have not sinned. So you have, when he says, in number 8, it says, Hashem is saying, aside from the consequence that you deserve for the actual sin, I will add an additional punishment for denying that you did anything wrong. And this is what people commonly like to do. I didn't do anything wrong. What I do, it's a mistake, whatever the case is going to be. But they don't want to admit to it, and that's part of the problem. And it is written, he who conceals his sin will not succeed, but he who confesses and forsakes them will be treated mercifully. And again, the best example for that is going to be David, because David says, Chatati, I sinned, and he's forgiven for what he's done. Okay, it's just simple that he meant it. It wasn't just lip service, but he didn't try to cover it up. And he says, 9, one who makes an effort to cover up his sins will not succeed in doing so, for his evil will be revealed. Furthermore, he will not be dealt with by comparison by others, since he will be seen as a person who does not regret his evil. However, one who admits his sins and abandons them shows signs of regret and remorse and is therefore worthy of compassion. So he says the path of arrogance is very far from the path of repentance and the way of good, as is written about the harlot. She hardened her face and spoke to him. And he says her brazenness led her from one level of sin to another, ultimately suggesting that such behavior is permissible for the sake of a mitzvah. This trait is extremely evil, for it leads one to shame his friend and the poor. As is written, the poor man will speak with supplications, and the rich man will answer with arrogance. So, and how much worse when one shames his teachers, hardens his face against them, and stiffens his neck and his face against his reprovers in the greatness of his arrogance. Then this trait removes him from the world. He should remove it from his soul. So he's really, you can see he doesn't really enjoy the trait of arrogance trait of arrogance. He's saying for the most part arrogance, and he said that from the beginning, arrogance is very bad.
But when you talk about somebody that's hardening his face, it means just get that certain look. Hard, arrogant face means that people see your face and they just know you're not going to budge. You're lying about something or whatever. Is that what that means? It hardens his face?
Yeah, I think it's more of
I mean, is it something physical, or does it mean?
No, I think it's more a.
I'm just trying to figure out the expression. Hardens his face.
Again,
there's got to be a certain look that a person gets when he's doing that. That you can just see. You know?
They become stubborn. In other words, when you say he's stubborn, what? Stern look? I don't know. I'm not sure if it's a look.
Like little kids, when they, my students, they get that mulish look, and they're just not going to back down.
Okay, it could be that. It could be that. It could be that, or just an attitude. It's an attitude. Yeah. So I don't know what if they're changed. It could be their.
The reason I only ask is I don't think I've ever seen the expression hardens his face. That's what I'm just trying to figure.
Right. So it's in Hebrew it's maksha arbofanav. So he hardens his neck and his face, opposite the person is reproofing him because of his brazenness, his arrogance. Mm-hmm. So. Again, if somebody tells you off, you have the choice of to become contrite or to become, what's the expression? You know what would be the best example of that? You remember that picture that everybody went crazy over at the protest with the Indian guy going in front of the student at the Trump rally, okay? Yeah. Where at the Trump rally, it wasn't a Trump rally. It was some other rally. But he wore the hat saying "Make America Great Again" or whatever it was. So he was called a Trumper. Fine. The kid who they made blot of throughout the whole news media, because they was okay. If you remember that thing, so the guy was telling him off in his face, and the other guy was just standing there smiling at him. The kid was smiling at him. And so the media took that to be an arrogant sort of thing. He was trying to avoid a fight, probably scared for his life because this adult is yelling at him, and he's not trying to fight back. He's trying to smile if it were to diffuse the situation, and instead it just made it worse. Okay, so that could be an example of maksha panav, where you're not reacting the way I want you to react. You're not being contrite. You're not being, oh my God, how could I do this, and going down. Right. Unlike in your class, where if you look at the kids the wrong way, their face goes like, and they're ready to cry, and you're thinking, oh my God, what did I just do?
I have one like that, and I'm like, I just caught you doing that.
Right.
And he looks at you like, okay, fine.
Right, but then they want to cry, and the tears are, what? Right, and the tears are welling up. Okay, so it could be, right. You don't, right.
I just saw you hit him.
Right. Don't cry. You don't get to cry. Right. But nonetheless, that's already a point of contriteness, as opposed to so you saw me hit him. What's your point? Or smiling. Yeah, I hit him. Yeah. That's what I think is hard in the face, where you don't act the appropriate way. That's.
I have that too.
What?
I think it's funny. I'm like, it's not funny that you just hit him.
Right. But I was saying that's why I think when you have the expression hardens his neck, it's just I became stubborn, and I don't react the way you would expect me to react.
You can see they're not going to change their position, in other words.
Correct. And by the way, the reason they don't is potentially because you've embarrassed them or you caught them, and they know they're wrong, but they don't want to admit. And that's his point.
So
they don't want to admit they're wrong.
They're not bending at all.
Correct. Well, again, they don't know how to get out of it. I had one kid. I remember he was in my class, but it wasn't during class. It was during recess, and I was sitting in my classroom, and he wanted to go out the back door. And the problem was we weren't allowed to because there was construction going on. So I told him, Shlomi, you can't, Shlomi is not his real name. Okay, Shlomi, you can't go through the back door. And he said, I'll do what I want. I said, you can't go through the back door. I was being very calm. Now, I'm also, even though it was previous century, you couldn't touch a kid to grab him to say no. So I was sitting in my chair and I said, you can't go out. Well, he didn't know what to do at this point because he was being confronted. And so I called the vice principal, who was right across the hall from me, because she heard me yelling, you can't go out the door. She comes in, what's the problem? I said, Shlomi wants to go out the door. Shlomi, you can't go out the door. Here you'd think he's a vice president, she's a vice principal. Back off, you lost, forget it. No, the kid becomes more stubborn because he doesn't know what to do right now. He's stuck because he wants to walk up, but he doesn't want to back down to the teacher. They went so far as getting the guard to grab this kid, first say it to him, I'm going to have to grab you if you don't. Literally took him out of the room. I thought everybody was saying, even his friends were saying, stand down, Shlomi, stand down, forget it. It's not worth this. But again, watching it from just a bystander point of view, he didn't know what to do. He was just caught. He was caught in. He didn't want to fall. He didn't want to follow that rule, but he didn't. He knew if he didn't, he knew if he went out, it would also be over. But he didn't want to lose a reputation. And it was nobody there originally. He could have easily backed away, but in his own mind he couldn't. So that's the case where you have Maksha Arpovanov. He couldn't. I think that's another problem that they're not bringing up here. He doesn't bring it up, but the arrogance sometimes is, I don't know how to get out of it. I just don't know how to get out of it. I not want to say I'm wrong, no one to back off, but at the same time, because I'm embarrassed by it, but I won't let you know it. Because if I do, what's the expression? The first one who blinks loses. Okay? So, he's not bringing that into here.
Lose face.
Right, but he's not bringing that up, but I really think that has to be brought up. With the psychology that we know today, sometimes that's the problem.
Oh, so that, the hardened, it just hit me. You hear this kind of like the Chinese, especially dealing with the Chinese national government. You can't embarrass them. It's against Chinese culture. Doesn't let them lose face. That's that word face again. Right. So
face is persona. So if I have persona, one way or another, I have to be I have to be careful with that persona. That's why. If you think I really now, I'm going to show my bikias in movies. Okay. If you think about Back to the Future, what always got Marty? You guys know Back to the Future? Vaguely, okay. Okay, okay. Back. Okay. So what happened? Right, Marty always went. He let his arrogance get to him because all he had to say, "What are you, a coward? You chicken? Whatever the chicken? You're a chicken." And that's when he would race, get into an accident, ruin his life, ruin his guitar playing, blah blah blah. That's 1, 2, and 3 put together. Okay. But that was really his problem, and you can see that was generationally his problem. Wherever he was, all you do is to insult his manhood, and suddenly he had to come out, even though all his other relatives were like, "What are you doing?" Until he finally went back to the Old West, and the guy said, "Which one? What are you, stupid? You don't know what you're doing?" The great granddaddy, right? But from Ireland, I think it was, whatever it was.
Yes.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that's what you're looking at. So if I can get you on one word, if I can hit your button and you won't back off, that's your stubbornness. That's your arrogance. Okay. I think that's how I'm reading. That's how I'm understanding his gate of arrogance. He said, but this trait is very commendable when employed in divine service, hardening one's face against the wicked, stiffening his neck, against those against them, not to accept their counsel, not tolerating their lies and abominations, and not flattering them. One must harden one's face in performance of the mitzvot, even when people ridicule him for performing them. And one must harden his face against his teachers, to ask what he does not know, and he should not be ashamed to do so. And one must be stubborn in reproving others and revealing their sins to them. So again, you have on one hand arrogance. For you, if you're not going to learn, is no good. On the other hand, it becomes important to have this sense of who you are, to say to one, and when people are making fun of you, not to pay attention to them. I have to be strong. I have to know myself. And then I can't be afraid to ask the question, because it says the Gemara that says a student who angers his Rebbe with questions that he asks will be rewarded if he accepts that anger quietly. The reward is meriting the ability to judge cases in Jewish law properly and truthfully. The Iyun Yaakov makes him similar to and a partner of Hashem who judges in truth. And then finally, you have to be stubborn in reproving others because people are going to want to tell you off, right? So you're here, you're telling somebody off, you're reproving them. They're going to yell at you. You have to be strong with that. Again, you have to harden yourself against those sort of things. You can't get into the yelling match, which is what normally we'll go for, but you also can't be dissuaded from doing what's right. That's when he says, that's when arrogance is good. That's when this trait of arrogance, yeah.
So, like, the image I see is two sides of the same coin. Is you realize you're kind of stuck, and you decide, well, I guess this is the hill I die on. And the other one is you know what you're standing up for, so you go into the argument saying this is going to be the hill I die on. But they're both the same kind of arrogance.
Okay. One for good, one for bad. Correct.
Right. You just kind of one time you look around and realize, well, I guess I'm already this far. Kind of weak of me to get back down now. I might as well finish it off.
Right. That would be bad.
Right. That's the bad.
And versus when you realize that this is what you have to stand for.
You begin the argument with.
Right. 100%. Yes, that's exactly what he's talking about. Yeah. So one must control this trait to suppress it where it is undesirable and resist it with all the strength, for it is extremely difficult to escape this evil trait once one exercises all of his power and strength to conquer it and remove it from himself whenever it is uncalled for, and to stamp it in within him and upon his face whenever being stiff-necked would result in his being rewarded. So again, what you're seeing once again from the Orchot Tzaddikim is a trait can be good. Yeah. A trait is parv. How you use it is what makes it good or bad. Because here you had a case of arrogance, which normally we would all say is horrible, you shouldn't do it. Yeah. And yet there's a time that we have to be strong, we have to be arrogant, we have to have azus pan, what we call azut panim, the brazenness of the face. We have to have that. When yeah, you have to. Right. Well, with the Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov, that's more inside. That's my inner fight. But here, when the arrogance, or the Yetzer upon him is when I want to, I don't know. I want to wear a kippah outside. Okay. So what happens is the non-Jew never says anything. Let's understand that. It's a Jewish person who will say something to me, and they'll say to me, "Why are you wearing that? Don't you realize that you should put a hat on? If you want to wear a hat, put a baseball cap on, put some other hat on. Don't be so open about your Jewishness." And that's only going to come from a Jew. It's not going to come because it happened to my brother. That's why I know it. It never comes from the non-Jew. The non-Jew just looks at him and says, "So you're Amish?" But that's what happens. And I have to be strong enough. I have to have that stubbornness to be able to go into my friends and say, "Look, we're Jews. That's why I wear a kippah. Why aren't you wearing it? You should be wearing it too." And so on and so forth. It's when you walk here, it's time of year you grow the beard. So what would happen is if I would be working, I am working in a Jewish organization. So for the Jewish organization to say to me, "Rabbi, you really should shave." I'd have to say to them, "I'm sorry. The custom is not to shave during this time." "Yeah, but it's really something we don't like that the rabbi has a beard. Because you normally have a beard, so we don't like it. It's very uncomfortable. You should at least trim it. At least trim it. Let's go halfway." And you say, "I'm sorry, you can't do that." No. They say, "Well, it's that or..." This would be the sort of thing he'll to die on, okay? And it's really not, but I'm making the point. If they would say to me, either that or you're through. Okay, I'm through. Again, it's normally not something I would throw my job away for, but if it's going to be, you really want to threaten me on that sort of level, that's a ridiculous level to do. So obviously there's something else going on here, so leave me alone. I'm not going to shave just for a couple of bucks. So that would be, again, as he called it, the hill to die on. Again, if I were working, on the other hand, where you were working for a computer organization, what was it? IBM?
Originally.
IBM. If IBM said to me...
back in those days?
Right.
Oh, no
IBM said to me, there's none of this. Yeah. Again, if you can be trimmed, you can do what you want. At that, or you you're out, at that point, they're not hitting me because I'm Jewish, they're hitting me because of a uniform. So, okay. So I go to my rabbi, I said, Rabbi, this is what's going on. What does you do? The rabbi will tell you shave every time. You don't lose your job over that. Okay, so there's a time to be Ezu Panim, there's a time not to be. Okay, that's what he's saying. Okay, so here we go. The gate of love. We went from arrogance, now we're on to the fifth gate of love. He says, of all the various character traits, the trait of love has an effect on one's actions more than any of the others. And when one employs his love for good, it is the highest of all the traits, as is written, and you shall love Hashem your God. And he says, if the word ahava, love, is used to describe the relationship that one is obligated to have with Hashem, which is the ultimate relationship one can attain, then it is certainly a very lofty trait. So he said, you shall love the Lord your God, fine, and there is no form of divine service higher than that of serving God out of love. We've discussed that many times. There's no comparison between one who serves Hashem out of love as to one who does one out of fear. The person who's motivated out of fear will give up the task when it gets too difficult, whereas the one whose motivation is love will stop at nothing. Okay, so that's something too. That is also, by the way, fear or awe has a limit, like he says, it's a limiting factor, and that I could have tremendous awe for you, but I'm not going to jump off the building, as opposed to the one who loves the person. They'll do anything for that, because they want to show the great love and more than respect, and it's more than awe. So one who, that's why it says, if again, it's from my Bekias of movies and something like that, when it comes to Snow White, I think it's Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, that's what it was, Sleeping Beauty. So the prince has to get, the prince of only the truest love can, the first kiss, that sort of thing, has to be true love. It can't just be the love what we all call love in the movies. So that sort of true love is what's going to bring you through. And that's what he's saying. You're gonna go through the mountains, over the hills, over the prairie, just to get that, find that person. Okay. So one employs his love for evil. There is no trait among all the others that can compare to it in evil. She said, since love knows no bounds, if that love is harnessed for the sake of evil, the results can be tragic. And that's where you get all these people who they kill for love. In other words, their person that they're in love with says, you need to kill my husband.
Crime of passion?
Crime of passion, right. So that sort of thing. And that's all, again, all the movies that you get to watch where they set it up, where she entangles this guy and says, I want to be with you, blah, blah, blah. Now you have to kill my husband. And he'll do it. Now, normally he wouldn't do it. Normally he wouldn't do it. But because he loves, again, that's twisting the love to go the other way. That's for bad. So he says, and now hear how love ruins one's deeds when it gets the upper hand over wisdom. And so here there are many different types of love, and he's going to give them two. He's going to give it to us, but first the note says, it's interesting to note that love manifests itself and is a driving force in the 7 areas of life that the Orchot Tzaddikim is about to enumerate. Therefore, when one takes an accounting of his daily activities and looks for ways to improve and raise his spiritual level, this characteristic must be carefully examined and scrutinized. It is important to bear in mind that when we claim to love someone or something, within that love, there is also a dimension of love for oneself. Hence, expression of love toward others is motivated by the love of ourselves. And he says, sell love. This is his story. After being seated in a restaurant, the customer ordered a large platter of fish, saying to the waiter that he just loves fish. If you love fish so much, the waiter said, go to an aquarium. Why sit here and devour them? It is really yourself that you love, and eating fish satisfies that love. And that, what he doesn't say is that waiter was fired that day.
That's funny. Yeah.
Okay, so the love of the father for his children. That's That's the first type of love. And okay, let me go through the whole thing. Because of his great love, because of God's great love for them, he does not reprimand them, and lead them on the right path. To emphasize his. Okay, so it must be a regular person. Okay. He leaves them to the evil promptings of their hearts, from which the great ruin will result. So he says, the love of the father for his children. Many books have been written on this topic of the Torah's perspective of childbearing. Such advice, together with the counsel of the Torah sages, are essential, particularly during the troubling times in which we live. Social and peer pressure are burdens which at times can cause children and adults to make improper decisions. When one's love for his child is misguided, messages become confusing and contradictory, and the impending results can be disastrous. Saying no to a child all the time is certainly not a solution. On the other hand, allowing the children the freedom to do whatever they want is a far cry from good parenting. This does not preclude the idea of a child making his own decisions at times. In fact, teenagers are referred to as Chazal as the age of Bacharut, from the root Bachar, which means to choose. Learning to make choices is critical for their growth, even when their choices result in failure. There are, however, situations when a child cannot be allowed to make his own choices, situations when it is obvious that his choice would be detrimental to his physical or spiritual well-being. At those times, parents must take the initiative to guide the child safely and properly, despite resistance in the form of nagging, frowning, and the like. All my friends are doing it, or all the other parents allow it, are not valid reasons to condone an activity. A good phrase for children to learn is, don't do what others do, do what's right. Okay. Then you have the love of money, the second type of love. One's great desire for money causes him to be dishonest in business and to covet, exploit, and steal in order to amass more wealth. This great desire for wealth will cause him to close his hand to charity and to be miserly. She says, to be dishonest in business. The word Amunah has two meanings, both of which are being referred to here by the author. The first meaning is honesty, when a person develops a love and desire for money, that love may motivate him to be dishonest if that is what it takes to satisfy his desire for money. If he succeeds fulfilling his desire through deception, he will feed off of that success and be encouraged to be even more deceitful in order to amass more money. Sometimes people develop an attachment to their belongings, so much so that their possessions become part of their very being, just as they will do whatever is necessary to maintain and sustain themselves. They will do the same, legal or illegal, to maintain their possessions. She says two different advertisements bear out this point. One for a car that read, "You are what you drive," and another for a timepiece that read, "The watch you wear says a lot about you." If agencies are being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to create and print these ads, it is proof enough that they work. People actually view their possessions as part of themselves. For example, growing up years ago, I, Rabbi Yachnes, recall having a neighbor who used to talk to his car every Saturday night while he was washing it. He would ask it, "How was your night? And where do you want to go today?" Obviously, he had a problem there. Okay. The concept of seeing oneself separate and independent of his possessions is very important hashkafa, Torah philosophy, to live by. When I was 16 years old, my father bought a second-hand car, which was the nicest and most luxurious car we'd ever owned. The push-button windows and rear seat headrests made the car seem to us like a Rolls Royce. Arriving from the home from school one evening, I noticed the car missing from his usual parking spot in front of our house. Rushing inside to inquire about his whereabouts, I saw my father sitting and learning in his regular seat at the dining room table. Not wanting to disturb him, I went to the kitchen and asked my mother where the car was. She calmly told me that my father had skidded on a wet, slippery road that morning and collided with a lamppost. Baruch Hashem, as you can see, Tati, Dad is fine, she said, but the car was totaled. Stunned by the news, I charged back to my father and cried out, "Our car is gone! How could you just sit there and learn as if nothing happened?" My father sat me down and used the opportunity to teach me 2 lessons that I hope to forever live by. Firstly, he said, one must understand that the purpose of a car is to transport you from one place to another. All the extras that come with it are amenities that are unnecessary for the essence and purpose of a car. Hashem provided us with this means of transportation, and Hashem will provide us with another means of transportation. Secondly, a person must be careful never to develop an attachment or a relationship with material things. If he does, and one day loses them, he will feel as if he lost a part of himself, which in turn will cause anger, frustration, and depression. Torah is the only thing that a person must make part and parcel of himself. Because I didn't allow myself to become attached to the car, I therefore don't mourn its loss.
Wow.
Okay, so now you take this story, by the way, and think about 1929. None of us were alive in None of us were alive in 1929, right? I'm guessing? Okay. You weren't? You weren't alive? Okay, I thought you were. I want to make sure. Okay. This great stock market crash. We all hear stories of people who, when the stock market crashed, they jumped out the windows.
They got movies of that.
Yeah. They got
newsreels, I mean.
They do?
I think so.
Really? But that's why my mother, who was born in 1919, she was 10 years old at the crash. That's why she never wanted to invest in stocks.
Why? Wow.
And she didn't. But I mean, to her detriment. If she would have invested, she would have been better off. But
people coming out of my parents were pretty much like that. You know, no, that's too risky.
It's gambling.
Yeah.
It was gambling. But that, because they saw that, but that were the people who were attached to their belongings, and it was unbelievable. You know, the truth is, today we all talk about it. I don't, because I'm not attached to this thing. Not that much. It's a tether, but not much of a tether. I can turn it off. But I've heard stories of people. But when it buzzes, you have to look at it. Okay. Kids are constantly hooked up on. There's a game that's played. What's the name of the game? Fortnite. Okay, Fortnite. And apparently, you're playing with somebody on another part of the planet, and it can go from game to game to game to game to game. So you're never looking up. I went to Notre Dame on Monday for my lunch and learn, and I see a girl, a student. It's not a girl. She's a girl, but I'm saying a young woman, whatever. Yeah. And she was looking at her phone, not looking up, crossing the street. And I think you're an idiot. You're at one of the more expensive colleges in the world, and you're an idiot. Because you're walking around, not looking anywhere. You're just looking at your phone. The cars are... What? She's... you can win the Darwinian award. The Darwin Award, because only the survival of the fittest. I don't understand these kids, but that's what's happened. It's a small screen, and that's what they're looking at. Either talking or they're playing the game. I don't know what they're doing, but they don't look up. And when I walk on the street, I look around. I look at the trees. I see what's going on. When I'm crossing the street, I look both ways. Yeah. I don't just rely upon a miracle that God's not going to kill me because I'm being an idiot. But that's what you're having here, where he's saying you're attached to everything. Once you're attached to it, and that becomes part of you, so that's when it's going to take you over. And he said that's not good. You're spitting your love from God and you're putting on something else. That's his point of that. Okay. Then the next one is the love of women. If a person's wife is wicked and haughty, she will turn all of his mitzvot. She will turn all of the mitzvot from his heart, and he will be drawn after her. His great love will not permit him to defy her. He will heed her counsel, and she will lead him into the evil deeds. His great love for women will also cause him to gaze at them constantly, to speak obscenities, and to come to lewdness. So he said the word love in this case must be examined carefully. True love for one's wife is developed through many years of growing and giving relationship. When Yitzchak married Rivka, the Torah says, and Vayikach had Rivka Vatihilo the Isha v'Yaveh, that he took Rivka and he became a wife for him, and he loved her. Hirsch says that Yitzchak's love for Rivka came only after the marriage had taken place, after his relationship with Rivka had developed and cemented. Then, and only then, did real love surface. The so-called love before marriage is generally not real love, but rather infatuation. He's being nice. I call it what it is. It's lust. Okay. The love of women for which the author speaks is also not to love in this true sense. This type of love will cause a man to acquiesce to his wife's wishes, even when they are not proper. It will draw a man away from Torah and cause him to commit lowly acts. In no way is this meant to minimize the importance of physical attraction between husband and wife. I was told by one of this generation's greatest Torah scholars that when he advises young men regarding finding a wife, he tells them to be sure to marry someone who is attractive enough to them so that they won't have a desire to gaze at other women. This is also a famous Mishnah. I think it's Reb Meir who said that if a man is with his wife and he hears another woman outside and he thinks about that other woman, knows the voice, he should divorce his wife because he's not fit to be with her anymore. He doesn't love her. Because when you love your wife and the love they're talking about, then you're not thinking about anybody else, no matter what. So when we're using the word love here, it's really the word of lust. I lust after the women, so I'm going to do whatever I have to make them happy. But it's really not a long enduring love like the one with Yitzchak and Rivka. What he doesn't pick on, by the way, is the other story that we all know. That when Yaakov saw Rachel, he loved her. Love at first sight. So how do you explain that? That would be a question to the Orchot Tzaddikim. That would be one of the questions. Because you do have both types of love. It says love in both places. One is I took her into my house, I loved her. Fine. The other one is I saw her and I loved her. So that's the love at first sight. And he works for 7 years. Actually, ultimately 14 years for her.
Didn't see Orchot things. Obviously, we're not privy to be so holy to have such a concept. But he saw much deeper things when he gazed at her, and that in turn, I'd have to say was the cause as well.
Okay, so you want to argue that Yaakov? I'm saying it for the listening audience out there. Okay, you want to argue that that Yaakov saw something he saw the spiritual essence of Rachel, and therefore that's what he loved. Yes.
I would say further. He saw the future of them being together. So he passed that whole initial stage. It wasn't already lust. He was kind of seeing the future and see what was going to be built out of this relationship.
I didn't use lust with it when it came to Yaakov.
No, whatever.
I said love.
Right.
I was clear. I didn't. It's not chas v'shalom either. I'm sure you had love for her. It's not chas v'shalom. Okay. I don't think it's not a chas v'shalom.
Initial stage of which obviously we can't even understand.
Right. So I hear what you're saying. What I would suggest is that since the Torah says both types, that I can take you into my house and love you, and I can see you and love you, that the Torah is recognizing that both of those types of love are there. And depending on what you do with that, will develop into either a healthy relationship or a non-healthy relationship. That's all. I don't think it's saying that it has to be one way or that I have to. I mean, think about from Hirsch's way. Hirsch is according to Hirsch. So what happens is I marry this woman, but I don't love her. I just marry her because she's a good fit and it makes sense. My father told me I should. It was, it's a good shidduch. It made sense on a piece of paper.
Those kind of relationships, yeah.
But so then when I'm with her, you know what? Again, my vikiyas on movies, Fiddler on the Roof, where Tevye asks Golda, do you love me? And she says, what are you talking about? For 25 years I've done blah, 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 the whole song. And yeah, but you did all that, but do you love me? The fact that you did my laundry doesn't mean you love me, right? And so really that's the question. What did our relationship do? So what I'm saying is you have the relationship that was a fix-up, that you learn about each other, and that's the love of Rivka, where you learn You learn about each other, and you love what you've learned, clearly. And then you have the other relationship where I met you, I knew there was something there, and that, by the way, we see we do know people who meet their first love, their only love, and they marry them, and it's a very good shidduch. We know those people. I know some people, two people that they met, they knew that was it, and they didn't. Baruch Hashem, 30 kids later, everything's good. Okay, and we'll have to stop here.